I don't feel it anymore. That sentence scares people because they think it means you're broken. They think numbness is weakness. They think not feeling pain means you've lost something human. They're wrong. What you've lost is fear. What you've lost is hesitation. What you've lost is the version of you that used pain as an excuse to stop. And once that version dies, there is no going back. You didn't stop feeling pain because life got easier. You stopped feeling it because life trained you. Too many losses, too many failures, too many nights where you realized no one was coming. Pain didn't disappear. It burned through you so many times that it stopped shocking you. And that's when you became dangerous. Because pain only controls people who aren't used to it. Most people still flinch, still complain, still collapse the moment things don't feel good. They treat discomfort like a threat instead of a requirement. That's why they stay average. They want progress without pressure, growth without struggle, success without sacrifice. That fantasy has ruined more lives than failure ever did. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. If pain still scares you, you are not built yet. If discomfort still makes you quit, you are not ready. If hardship still feels personal, you haven't been forged enough. Because the world does not reward softness. It rewards resilience. And resilience is built by repeated exposure to pain you didn't run from. You think the strongest people don't feel pain. They do. They just don't listen to it. Pain talks. Weak people obey. Strong people acknowledge it and keep moving. That's the difference. That's the line. And once you cross it, pain loses its power over you. Most people are controlled by their nervous system. Stress hits, they panic. Fatigue hits, they stop. Boredom hits, they distract themselves. They think they're making choices, but they're just reacting. They're puppets, controlled by feelings, controlled by comfort, controlled by fear. And if your emotions run your life will never be yours. At some point, you realize something brutal. Your brain is not designed to make you great. It's designed to keep you safe. It wants easy. It wants familiar. It wants pleasure. And if you let it lead, it will talk you out of everything that matters. Every hard decision, every uncomfortable action, every chance to grow. That's why self-control is everything. If you can't control your own brain, you're fucked. Not emotionally, literally. Because your future will be dictated by impulse instead of intention. That's why numbness isn't weakness. It's adaptation. It's what happens when you've been through enough bullshit to stop dramatizing discomfort. You don't need to feel good to function anymore. You don't need motivation to move. You don't need confidence to act. You just execute. And execution beats emotion every single time. You don't get this state by watching videos. You get it by surviving days you didn't think you could. By pushing through exhaustion. By training when everything in you said stop. By choosing discipline when comfort was right there. That's how numbness forms. Not emotional numbness. Functional numbness. The kind that lets you work while others crumble. Look around. Most people are fragile. Emotionally fragile. Mentally fragile. They need perfect conditions to perform. Silence. Support, motivation, validation. Remove one of those and they break. That's not strength, that's dependency. And dependency is weakness disguised as sensitivity. Strong people are not loud about their struggle. They don't post about how hard it is. They don't beg for understanding. They just carry it, quietly, relentlessly. Because they learned early that complaining doesn't reduce pain. Action does. You don't feel it anymore because you stopped negotiating with hardship. You stopped asking why me. You stopped expecting fairness. You accepted the rules of the game. Life doesn't care how you feel. It responds to what you do. Once you understand that, pain becomes irrelevant. It's just noise in the background. This is where people misunderstand you. They say you're cold, detached, intense, too serious. What they really mean is you no longer operate on their level. You don't collapse over small problems. You don't react emotionally. You don't waste energy on things that don't matter. That makes insecure people uncomfortable, because your calm exposes their chaos. You didn't become numb because you gave up. You became numb because you hardened. There's a difference. Giving up is quitting. Hardening is adapting. Steel doesn't complain about the fire that forged it. It respects it. Without heat, there is no strength. Without pressure, there is no edge. You don't need to feel inspired anymore. You don't need hype. You don't need speeches. You've reached the phase where results come from routine, from systems, from showing up whether it feels good or not. That's the phase most people never reach. They live and die chasing feelings. You moved beyond that. And here's the harsh reality. Once you reach this level, there is no comfort waiting for you. There is no soft landing. You either keep moving forward or you decay. Strength must be maintained. Discipline must be practiced. Because the moment you start feeling sorry for yourself again, the moment you start listening to comfort, you start losing ground. You don't feel pain the way you used to, but you still feel purpose. You still feel direction. You still feel the weight of responsibility. And that weight doesn't crush you anymore. It grounds you. It keeps you focused. It keeps you sharp. This is what it means to grow up mentally. You stop asking life to be easier. You make yourself stronger. You stop trying to avoid pain. You learn how to use it. You stop running from discomfort. You train inside it. So when you say, "I don't feel it anymore," what you really mean is this: pain no longer controls me. Fear no longer decides for me. Comfort no longer owns me. Once you reach that point, you are no longer average. You are no longer predictable. You are no longer weak. You are dangerous, calm, controlled, relentless. If this is hitting you, good. That means you're ready for the next level. There comes a point where pain stops being dramatic and starts being informational. It tells you where you're weak, where you hesitate, where you lie to yourself. Most people hear that signal and immediately shut it down. They numb it, escape it, avoid it. That's why they never evolve. You didn't shut it down. You stayed in it long enough to understand it. And once you understand pain, it loses its ability to control you. You don't feel it anymore because you stopped being surprised by hardship. You stopped expecting life to be fair. You stopped assuming effort guarantees reward. You realize something brutal and freeing at the same time. You are owed nothing. Not ease, not success, not understanding. And once you accept that, you stop being fragile. Fragile people break when expectations are violated. Strong people operate without expectations. They just execute. They don't need reassurance. They don't need guarantees. They don't need a safety net. They trust their ability to adapt. That's real confidence. Not loud, not emotional, earned. You've seen what quitting does. You've lived with regret. You've felt the slow rot of wasted time. And that pain was worse than effort ever could be. So now, when things get hard, you don't panic. You don't dramatize it. You think, good, this is familiar territory. I've been here before, and I survived. Most people still confuse discomfort with danger. They treat resistance like a warning sign. But resistance is not a stop sign. It's an invitation. An invitation to level up, to expand capacity, to sharpen your edge. The only people who grow are the ones who stop interpreting discomfort as a threat. You didn't become numb by accident. You earned it through repetition, through consistency. That's why your pain tolerance is higher now. That's why chaos doesn't shake you the way it shakes others. You've trained under worse conditions. This is why discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. Motivation asks how you feel. And once discipline is installed, feelings lose their power. You don't need to feel good to perform. You don't need to feel ready to act. You just do what needs to be done. That's terrifying to people who still live emotionally, because they can't imagine functioning without being fueled by feeling. They don't understand how you can wake up tired and still move, how you can be stressed and still focus, how you can be bored and still work. That's because they're still slaves to sensation. You're not. You crossed that line. You learned to separate action from emotion. And once you do that, your output explodes. Because your productivity is no longer limited by your mood. Your progress no longer depends on how inspired you are. You became consistent, and consistency is undefeated. There's a loneliness that comes with this level. Not because people leave, but because you outgrow their mindset. You stop relating to complaints. You stop engaging in pointless conversations. You stop bonding over excuses. And that creates distance. Not intentionally, naturally. You're playing a different game now. If you ever wonder whether this path is worth it, remember this. The pain of discipline is temporary. The pain of regret is permanent. One builds you, the other haunts you. You chose the one that builds. That's why when you say, "I don't feel it anymore," what you really mean is this. I felt enough. Enough to know quitting is not an option. Enough to know comfort is a lie. Enough to know my limits were imagined. And now, you move differently. You think differently. You operate differently. This isn't numbness. This is evolution. Eventually you reach a place where you stop asking if this version of you is too much. You stop worrying if you're going too far. You stop wondering if you should slow down, soften up, or make yourself easier to understand. That questioning phase dies because you finally realize something most people never do. The world doesn't reward restraint. It rewards those who are willing to go where others won't. You didn't become this way overnight. This version of you was built layer by layer, loss by loss, failure by failure, day by day when you kept moving even though nothing felt good. And that's why this version can't be undone by a bad week, a bad mood, or a bad opinion. You're not held together by motivation anymore. You're held together by structure. This is the phase where weakness has no voice. Not because it doesn't exist, but because you don't listen to it. You hear the thought telling you to stop. You just don't obey it. You feel the urge to quit. You let it pass. You experience fear. You move anyway. That's real strength. Not the absence of fear or pain, but the refusal to let them dictate your actions. Most people still believe strength looks loud, aggressive, explosive. They think power is about dominance over others. They're wrong. Real power is internal. It's being calm in chaos, focused under pressure, controlled when everything in you wants to react. That kind of power doesn't need to announce itself. It's felt. You start to notice that the same things that break others barely register for you anymore. Stress doesn't spiral you. Failure doesn't define you. Criticism doesn't derail you. Because you're anchored. Your identity is no longer fragile. It's built on work, on proof, on discipline. And discipline doesn't disappear when emotions fluctuate. This is where you separate permanently. Because once you've trained yourself to operate without comfort, you can't go back. Comfort starts to feel dangerous. Laziness feels wrong. Wasted time feels heavy. You've seen what life looks like on the other side of effort, and you refuse to unsee it. You don't need external pressure anymore. Deadlines don't scare you. Expectations don't shake you. You hold yourself to a higher standard than anyone else ever could. That's why you're dangerous. Because you don't rely on consequences to perform. You rely on identity. You don't do the work because someone's watching. You do it because that's who you are now. And identity-based discipline is unstoppable. Habits built on identity don't fade when motivation dies. They persist. They compound. They shape your future quietly, while others are still talking. This is also where patience enters. Not passive patience, ruthless patience. The kind that understands results take time, but effort is non-negotiable. You stop chasing instant gratification. You stop needing immediate rewards. You're willing to suffer now because you see the long game. You see the version of yourself you're building. And that future version matters to you more than temporary relief ever could. You start making decisions differently. You choose what's hard over what's easy, what's meaningful over what's comfortable. What builds you over what distracts you? Not because it's fun, but because it's necessary. And necessity is a stronger driver than desire. People around you may never fully understand this shift. Some will admire it. Some will resent it. Some will try to pull you back into old patterns. That's normal. Growth threatens those who are committed to staying the same. But you're not here to be understood. You're here to build something undeniable. There's a moment where you look at your past self and feel something close to pity. Not in a disrespectful way, in an honest way. You see how much potential was buried under excuses. How much energy was wasted on comfort. How much time was lost negotiating with fear. And instead of regret, you feel resolve. You promise yourself you'll never go back. That's when the numbness fully makes sense. You didn't lose feeling. You refined it. You stopped reacting emotionally to everything and started responding intentionally. You didn't become cold. You became precise. And precision beats passion every time. Now when pain shows up, it doesn't shock you. It doesn't overwhelm you. It reminds you that you're still pushing boundaries, that you're still moving forward, that you're still alive in a world that numbs most people into complacency. Pain became proof of effort, not a reason to stop. This is what separates those who talk about greatness from those who embody it. Talkers need constant reassurance. Builders need silence. Talkers chase validation. Builders chase progress. Talkers collapse when things get hard. Builders adapt. You're no longer waiting for life to give you permission. You've taken ownership over your time, your habits, your mind. And once ownership is established, everything changes. You're no longer a victim of circumstances. You're a participant, an architect, a force. This doesn't mean life stops hitting you. It means you stop folding. It means setbacks don't derail you, they redirect you. It means pressure doesn't crush you, it sharpens you. That's the difference between those who survive and those who dominate. You don't need to announce this transformation. You don't need to prove anything. Results will handle that. Consistency will handle that. Time will handle that. Your job is simple. Show up. Do the work. Don't quit. And when you say, I don't feel it anymore, understand this. You didn't lose your humanity. You gained control. You gained resilience. You gained the ability to move through pain without being owned by it. That's not numbness. That's mastery. Stay on this path long enough, and one day you'll realize something quietly powerful. Nothing outside of you has control anymore. Not fear, not doubt, not comfort, not pain. And that's when you truly become unstoppable. This is not the end. This is the standard.